Okay, so I start with a short presentation. Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So it's a second webinar of our project. CASTAL is a presentation of the second level studies on local sustainability transition and our Atlas. I am Daniele Mezzana from K&I Rome. Just to recall that CASTAL, our project, aims at developing case studies of local sustainability transition, new digital research object, collecting case studies and making them fair. We focus only on gray literature. This is to enable. Sorry, I have some technical problem. Enabling future research and exploitation of research results by researchers from social science and humanities and other disciplines, and local authorities, businesses, and citizens. Another CASTAL output is 10 second-level studies by young researchers based on the CASTAL Atlas to test, use, and develop the Atlas itself. Today, apart of this short introduction, we have some presentation about the reports on secondary studies of our project by the 10 young researchers we have selected. Then we have a presentation about the Atlas structure by Carlo Pisano and Domingo Scisci from DASSI, Milano Bicocca, who are the partner of our project, CASTAL. Then we have some question and answer session. You can use the chat to anticipate your possible question, and then at the end we can have some discussion if you like. Anyway, you will find the webinar on the CASTAL page, and if there are no objections from your side. This is in short. You know very well our project, so I don't spend more words about. I think you are more interested in listening the presentation about the reports on secondary study made using the CASTAL Atlas. And I invite Liva Grinevica, if my pronunciation is right, to have to take the floor, please.
Thank you. Yes, I tried to share.
You can share.
Yes. Sure. Is it possible to see? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay. Like this. Okay. Yes.
We have invited all the at least some available participant to present in short, very short time, the work they have done. Please, Liva.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Today I will present my research on gender injustice. Sorry. Gender injustice in coal and carbon-intensive region transitions in Europe, a comparative analysis of women underrepresentation and policy responses. The study is based on a CASTAL case studies atlas, and the main research question: how and why are women systematically underrepresented in just transition governments and outcomes across European coal and carbon-intensive regions? And the objectives of the research: analyze gender dimension of just transition, identify recurring barriers, comparative policy responses across European case studies, and provide recommendations for more gender inclusive transitions. And yes, and I selected coal and carbon intensive regions with sufficient gender related evidence and good comparative potential. Using comparative analysis, I identified 4 recurring barriers that limit gender equality in just transition. The representation barrier, where women are underrepresented in decision-making bodies. The wage barrier, reflected in persistent gender pay gaps. The policy neutrality barrier, where policies are designed as gender neutral even though their impacts are not, and the conserving effect barrier, where gradual transition approaches preserve existing inequalities instead of transforming them. And the main results show a consistent pattern across the analyzed regions. First, women remain underrepresented in transition governments. Second, gender pay gaps persist in transitioning regions. Third, most transition policies are gender neutral rather than gender responsive. And finally, gradual transition approaches often preserve existing gender inequalities. And one positive example is the Teruel region in Spain, where gender-sensitive criteria have been incorporated into just transition policies by supporting women's employment and participation. And the main key message of this research is that gender equality should become a core principle of just transition, not an additional or secondary objective. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Liva, also for respecting the time.
3 minutes.
It's a very important point for such a kind of webinar. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Now, I give the, if you have some remarks, questions, you can use the chat, or you take note of the mail address of the authors, and you can have a direct contact. Now, I give the floor to Lorenzo Righi, please.
Okay, now I'm gonna share my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, does everybody see?
Yes.
Okay, so okay, I decided to make a work on urban wetlands. Urban wetlands defined by the International Convention of Ramsar of 1971, just like natural environments made of vegetation and water, both sweet water and salt water, not exceeding a maximum of 6 meters. And I realized this work with the overall objective to recognize the relevance of the sustainable use and the safeguarding of these natural environments for reaching urban sustainability and towards a sustainable local transition toward zero carbon emission society. In order to demonstrate the key ecosystem services provided by the wetlands in urban realms. And I made in my second section dissertation of some case studies that I acquired thanks to the CASTAL archive. And the last part involves semi-structured interview that I did to Marco Corirossi, spokesperson of Forum Parco dell'Energia, which is the association that struggled for the recognition of Lake Bulicante in the eastern side of Rome, which is wetland a urban wetland that arose from the ground almost 20 years ago. And in order to do so, I use this example, this case study that I studied in first person in order to display conflicts between urban financialization of urban areas and natural environments. I adopted a mixed method approach using both quantitative data from academic publication, scientific institution, and research consortia, and also, as I mentioned before, using the CASTAL archive in order to recollect some case studies particularly relevant. And the last one involving the inter-semi-structured interview that I did to Mr. Cory Rossi about the Lake Bulicante case in Rome. And the main findings I found with this research that urban wetlands are great tools to improve thermal regulation thanks to two phenomena called evapotranspiration and the cooling effect apported by the urban wetlands in order to tackle the urban heat island effect, especially in big cities, which is a theme involving the wetlands. And also they increase the carbon sequestration rate, something like 0.35 to 1 tons of carbon sequestration rate have been recognized through this research, and that they are great tools for risk management, for especially from flood mitigation, and thanks to the sponge effect afforded by the wetlands in case of great floods. That it's a theme for sure, an issue that involves a word that is in the core of the climate change in their peak. And that's all. Here I conclude with a beautiful landscape of Lago Bulicante in Rome, located in Via Prenestina, that I recommend all of you to visit. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much. I take the occasion to recall that all this presentation are about reports that the participants made and that will be published in our website and on Zenodo. And I take the occasion also to thank the K&I reviewer of this reports. So now is the time of Dilshad Feledi. Sorry for the pronunciation.
No, it's Dilshad, yes.
Dilshad, okay.
Yes, Dilshad.
Please.
Can you see my screen? Can you see?
Not yet. Okay.
Okay, sorry. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dilshad Evci, and today I will present our study entitled Municipal Pathways of Mobility Transition, Transformation and Reconfiguration Across European Cases, conducted within the CASTAL project. Mobility transitions are often associated with electrification or modal shift. However, European cities actually follow different transition pathways. Therefore, our objective is to identify how urban mobility transitions unfold across European municipalities, and we use an elaborated multi-level perspective for this. We analyzed 35 mobility-related cases that selected from the CASTAL database. Using elaborated multi-level perspective, each case was coded according to governance arrangements, policy instruments, and actor coalitions, and destabilization of intensity. This comparative approach enabled us to identify recurring mobility transition patterns across Europe. And this figure illustrates our analytical framework. It's adapted by GILS. It's an MLP framework, and we adapted it to the transition pathways. Building on a multi-level perspective, we examine interactions between landscape, socio-technical landscape, socio-technical system, and niche innovations. The landscape is the measure external factors that affect all the cities in Europe, all Europe affected from this, like climate change and Europe Green Deal, etc. Socio-technical system is the current transition system in Europe. It's like public transportation, user habits, and roads, municipalities, etc. They are all interconnected, so that's why the system resists to change. And the niche innovations, the bottom layer, is where the new ideas born, where electric scooter, mass, electric bus are the example. But these are still small scale trials. And the main findings, the analysis identified 4 recurring mobility transition pathways. The first focuses on the public space redesign, like giving priority to pedestrians on bikes, or not leaving space for cars, etc. It's redesigning the space. The main transformation here is a redesign. So the car system is directly challenged. The second emphasizes long-term planning and service improvements. It changes slower here. Cities are improving public transport and making long-term plans. Zurich and Copenhagen are the examples of this. And I forgot to tell, sorry, Paris and Barcelona are the examples of the first one. And for the third case, the third one integrates mobility with energy systems and smart city initiatives. Here, mobility is evolving together with the energy system, electricity grid, smart city applications, data systems, etc. Utrecht and Bari are the examples of this pathway. And the fourth is driven by governance innovations such as regulation and data collection. Here, rather than a physical change, data collection, licensing, micromobility mass occurs, and Berlin, Brussels, Antwerp are the examples. Overall, regime transformation and regime reconfiguration emerged as the dominant transition pathways, while technological substitution was relatively rare. 3 key findings emerged from the analysis. First, there is no single pathway for urban mobility transitions. There are multiple. Second, successful transitions depend not only on technology, but also on governance, planning, and policy coordination. And third, municipalities play a central role in steering mobility transitions through cross-sector collaboration. In conclusion, urban mobility transitions are not driven by one technology or one policy. They follow multiple pathways. So municipalities, governance, and cross-sector collaborations, not technology alone, are the key drivers of sustainable mobility transitions. And for the research, for future research, we might expand it beyond Europe. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. As you see, each presentation deserves many discussion, reflection, but today is in this way, just to show, to provide an idea of the general framework of this work. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And okay, now is the floor is for Emilia Pascal. Please
stop sharing.
I did.
Okay, stop sharing.
Didn't I? Sorry.
Okay.
I stopped. Sorry.
Maybe I can also share.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Is it okay? Do you see it well?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So actually, the previous presentation was very interesting for me because we had some common aspects. I also focused on what works and what doesn't work in local sustainability transitions, because wait a minute, I also have my timer. Okay. So what was the goal of my study? The goal of my second study was to analyze what are the main barriers when implementing such sustainable transition initiatives. So I focused only on the initiatives that involve directly the community, the citizens of the community. So I didn't I didn't analyze the studies that were, I don't know, policy on a government level. Only transitions that aim to, for example, to provide support for farmers or for implementing sustainable practices. So I started from the whole database. Then I used some criteria to select the studies I wanted to focus on. So I targeted only recent studies. That means studies published in the last 6 years or so. Only on, as I said, citizen or community-facing initiatives. So only the studies that directly involved citizens, at least at some levels. Then from all the interventions, I chose only the ones that had very clear and very identifiable and codable psychosocial content. And then from that, I extracted my final database. I noticed that my final database contained studies cases almost exclusively focused on the energy domain. This was not necessarily my intention, but it was the result of the database we worked with that you know so well, and of course of my screening strategy. Okay, so what were the main findings? As you can see, I had 44 studies. So as you can see, most studies had more than one barrier. Okay, we can also see that financial affordability was almost constant in all studies, because it appeared in 42 out of the 44 studies, which means that sometimes individuals can understand the importance of sustainable practices, can have information about what they have to do, but it's not financially sustainable for them. It's not affordable. Another two very common barriers were related to trust. So, sorry, I will try to finish, because my timer just announced me that my time is up. Okay, so we had other issues related to trusting and accepting the alternative practices. And what we can see is that many barriers clustered together. So when an intervention was not successful, as we've seen in the previous presentation, it is usually the result of more than one barrier. And what did work? When were the interventions more successful? When they had very clear rules of how to implement them, when they were affordable for citizens, and when they were perceived as legitimate. So the changes they proposed, the alternatives they proposed, were perceived by participants, by the target, as being legitimate. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now the floor is for Miriam Moiser. You can share.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm
Please.
trying. Yeah. Okay, can you see the presentation?
Okay.
Okay. So I use the CASTAL Atlas to look look at local energy transitions in the Nordic countries, and especially for social or psychological themes that were mentioned in the CASTAL Atlas and the documents. So my objective was first to identify and synthesize the social and psychological themes associated with local energy transitions in the Nordic countries, and for that I did a thematic analysis based on the data available in the data set. So at that stage, I didn't read the documents, but really looked at what kind of social aspects were already mentioned in the CASTAL data set. And then I tried to identify and map how citizens are affected by local energy transitions in Norway. So I looked at the social and psychological outcome variables in Norway, and for that I again did like a thematic analysis and mapping of like different concepts, and I did that based on the available documents for Norway. So that was like 7 cases. My main results for the social and psychological themes that were mentioned at all in the Nordic countries, I identified like 7 or 11 themes. The acceptance and resistance theme seemed to be the most commonly used in Denmark, but it was also mentioned at least once in each of the Nordic countries. The second theme, engagement and participation, was about like engagement, involvement, and participation of various actors and stakeholders, and it was one of the most prominent social aspects in the case studies on the local energy transitions in the Nordic countries. But there were like a lot of different stakeholders that were mentioned. It wasn't always clear who was actually engaged and how. So sometimes the naming of engagement or participation seemed quite shallow to me. The third aspect is governments, and here really notice that it was mostly the Danish case studies that used like regional, local, multi-actor government forms, and that was more prominent than in the other countries. The next theme I identified was justice and power. It has been mentioned in case studies related to all Nordic countries, but it was most strongly in Denmark, in relation to where the community-led projects. And here I noticed that indigenous rights were only mentioned once in a Swedish case study. So the Nordic countries have quite a lot of problems related to energy transition and indigenous rights and rights of land use. So I thought it was interesting that wasn't mentioned more often in the case studies. Another theme was local cooperation and ownership. So that describes actors' cooperation and or ownership of local energy projects. And it was mostly mentioned in case studies in Denmark, Finland, and Sweden. I also added the theme local development and employment, for example, something like local innovation or local opportunities, though most of the sub-themes and concept relates more to socioeconomic or economic aspects, but it was always described a bit like how that actually related to or how that had a social impact on the community. So I felt like it was still an important theme to add. Then the seventh theme was local identity, values, and heritage. Here again, I realized that indigenous heritage or cultural heritage wasn't discussed a lot in the documents or in the data set. The eighth theme was local place and environment, something like environmental disturbances such as noises or light pollution. Then I made a category I called psychological aspects, such as attitudes or concerns, health and well-being. And noticeably that theme was only mentioned for Norwegian and Finnish case studies. The 10th theme were social capacity building. So this kind of emphasized human capacities and the potential of the locals in the community. And the last theme I identified was trust, information, and transparency, especially the building and utilization of local knowledge was a key aspect, and trust and informing and being transparent about the process. And those were the aspects I identified as social and psychological outcomes in Norway. I will just go very quickly through them because I think my time is up too. So the first was agency, trust, and sense making. That was one of the outcomes. People could perceive more agency, more trust in the local authorities and make sense of the project. Then the second one was community impact, like having a sense of community, local employment, social distribution, shared environmental identity. The third one was landscape and environmental value, and that relates to the psychosocial relevance of the local nature and for residents, as like the landscape changes with energy transition projects. And then I used public response and positioning as a theme for public and social support, acceptance, submission, opposition, and or resistance. And this was probably the most frequently mentioned theme in the documents. The fifth one is residential mobility. So one case study actually studied whether people intended to stay or relocate. And the last one is residents' well-being, focusing on how local energy transitions affect the residents' well-being. So yeah, that was like kind of the topics or themes I identified. And I think I really realized how important it is to structure a bit, like what kind of social aspects we're talking about when we talk about energy transition, because that wasn't clear or really structured in the reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now we have received a video from Stefania Gurgelidu from Greece. I try to share. Do you see? Okay,
yes.
I go. Do you listen?
First of all, let me start
Yes.
by thanking the CASTAL and the K9 team, and a special thank you goes also to Mr. Daniel Mezzana, that he was there for me in every step of the way, and he made this process so wonderfully easy. So my research examines how we can reduce fragmentation in local sustainability transition research by combining qualitative evidence from local case studies with European sustainability indicators. This study asks whether existing indicator systems can represent not only sustainability outcomes, but also the processes through which local transition occurs. So local sustainability transitions are increasingly studied across European cities and regions. However, the evidence is highly fragmented. Most research focuses on individual cases, uses different concepts and methods, and examines different sectors and territorial contexts. This makes it extremely difficult to compare cases, identify recurring patterns, and build knowledge about why some local transitions succeed while others struggle. The study, therefore, had three main objectives. First, it identified barriers and enabling conditions across European transition studies. Second, it examines how well these dynamics are reflected in existing European sustainability indicators. Third, it explored whether secondary comparative analysis could connect qualitative evidence and support more systematic cross-case comparison. The research used a secondary comparative design by combining a literature review with thematic analysis and indicator mapping. From this analysis, 67 relevant studies were included in the final synthesis. Within these, 15 were from the CASTAL Atlas. And then by the end, 33 European sustainability indicators were selected, and they were categorized in 5 analytical dimensions. They were organized into institutional and government conditions, economic and green transition capacity, social participation, territorial and spatial condition, and environmental sustainability. After the review was done, I categorized them into those tables that you can see now below. That they have the indicator, the definition, the scale, so if the data were from NUTS 2 or national, the frequency, the analytical purpose, and at the end, the data source. Most of them were through gray literature. The findings showed that European sustainability indicators perform relatively well in measuring condition and outcomes, including economic performance, infrastructure, regional development, emissions, energy use, and environmental quality. However, they are considerably less effective at capturing processes that drive sustainability transitions. Important dimensions such as government learning, institutional collaboration, participation quality, community engagement, place attachment, and informal relationship among local actors remain underrepresented. So the main conclusion is that quantitative indicators should not be used alone. Combining them with qualitative and context-sensitive evidence provides a more complete understanding of local sustainability transition. This approach can strengthen the comparison across European regions while preserving the importance of local context. It can also support more adaptive, inclusive, and place-sensitive sustainability policies. So this was my presentation. Thank you very much. And please, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to send me an email. And I urge you to read my report. Thank you very much.
Thanks, many thanks. And so time is running, and I just show the title of the remaining scholar we have involved. Do you see? Do you see the slide?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Just now.
Yes, it's coming.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So among the other contribution, we have this contribution from Andrea Utul, psychosocial driver of citizen engagement in local sustainability transition. So I go ahead. We have another contribution from Sari Veracher about exploring socio-psychological factors and the mechanisms underlying engagement in energy citizenship, a narrative review. This is the slide. We have another contribution from Tudor Daniel Utul, psychological resistance and social acceptance of green technologies in local sustainability transition. Another contribution having a psychological focus. And then this is still work in progress, Fernanda Blanco Vidal, about a methodological approach to studying clean energy transition projects in Europe. And these are the objective of these studies. Okay. Now I think that is the time. I don't know if there are general question or remark you can put in the chat. Anyway, I think I can move to the second part of this webinar about the structure of the atlas. So I give the floor to our friend from DASSI. Please, Carlo and Domingo.
Okay, thank you. Daniele, we start by sharing my screen. Okay, can you see?
Yes, it's coming.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I don't. I don't know where is my. Okay. You can see my screen, my presentation.
You
Okay.
are still not in the presentation mode.
Ah, how can I?
Yeah. below on the right. Okay, perfect. There.
Yeah, but I just okay.
Okay. No.
No? Sorry for that. No.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay, now
Okay, sorry. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carlo Pisano, and together with my colleague Domingo Scisci, I would like to briefly focus on some of the issues that emerge from the secondary studies you conducting using the tools, the CASTAL project tools. In some case, this point concern aspects that appear ambiguous when the tools were used in practice, or they may to be defined more clearly. And in the other case, they concern suggestion for possible improvements or further enrichment towards the final version of these tools. First of all, I would like to briefly introduce the two main tools that were used during the secondary studies, that are the CASTAL dataset and the CASTAL archive. As you know, the CASTAL dataset is a data matrix provided in Excel format, consisting of 478 rows and 60 columns. Each row represents a case studies collected during the project, while the columns contain descriptive information about the study, the specific case analyzed, and the source document, and where relevant, also the European project that has funded the study. The CASTAL dataset, therefore, has a dual purpose. It can be used on one end as a practical tool for exploring the CASTAL archive and identify case studies of interest. And at the same time, on the other hand, it can also be analyzed as a research object. For example, to conduct meta-analysis of case studies and dealing with local sustainability transition. The CASTAL archive, on the other hand, is a collection of 315 PDF documents concerning the case studies on local sustainability transition in Europe. Each document may describe one or more case studies, for example, within a comparative research design, and may provide information on how the case study was conducted, the main findings, the method used, and other relevant aspects. So the archive represents the documentary basis of the CASTAL dataset. But we return shortly to the relationship between these two tools. The CASTAL dataset and CASTAL archive are therefore the two main tools that were made available to researchers for conducting the secondary studies. By using this tool in practice and by sharing more detailed feedback through a dedicated online form, the researcher highlighted several key issues that we would like to address in this presentation. On one end, some features on the dataset appear to be ambiguous or require further clarification. This can be summarized in three main points: the relationship between the two tools, dataset and archive, the access to the archive and to the individual source document for which information on the case studies can be obtained, and third, the geographical context of some case studies, particularly in relation to the multi-place cases. On the other hand, the secondary studies also highlight possible improvements and way to enrich the information included in the dataset in preparation of the final version of the project tools. These suggestions include adding information that may be useful for future researcher, for example, a methodological aspect, include more granular information on these case studies, reducing repeated information, developing additional tool for cross-cutting searches, and so on. So I will briefly focus on the main aspects that appear less clear in order to clarify them, while Domingo will focus on the possible improvements to this tool. So the first point to clarify concern the relationship between case studies and documents, which means the relationship between the two tools presented. The dataset was designed to support analysis at the case study level. And for this reason, the unit is represented by a single case studies. So it's important when the researcher would like to use these tools, it's important to pay attention in particular on two variables: the variable study ID that identify the individual case studies, and the variable file ID that identifies the source document in which the case studies was found. A single document, such as a report, an article, a thesis, or another type of document, may contain information about several distinct case studies. When this happens, the document is represented by the same file ID, but each case study is assigned a different state ID and appears in a separate row. Therefore, repeated file ID values should not be intended as duplicates, but they reflect the relationship between one source document and the multiple case studies that may be described within it. Another issue that needs to be clarified concerns the accessibility of documents. So how can source document be accessed? Some researchers point out the absence of the corresponding PDF file in the CASTAL archive, describing it as missing documentation. But however, this is not the case. Because for some source document, copyright or other sharing restriction prevent us from including the PDF in the CASTAL archive. However, in this case, the dataset provide a direct link to the original source, so it can be accessed anyway. Research should therefore always check the access variable in the dataset, and when it reports the PDF document available value, the file is directly included in the CASTAL archive. And when it reports a link to the source available, the document should be consulted through the link included in the source variable. The difference between the number of case studies in the dataset, around 500, and the number of documents available in the archive, just over 300, is therefore due to two main factors. Firstly, as already said, a single document may contain multiple case studies. And secondly, not all the documents consulted are directly available in the archive. So this is the reason of the difference in number. Okay. And the final point to clarify concern the geographical context of the case studies. Also, in this case, some researchers have noticed that case studies could be focused on one municipality or cover 2, 3, or more municipalities. This situation don't represent an inconsistency in the tools, because a case study is not defined simply by the number of location considered, but by the analytical approach of the study. A case study may involve more than one geographical context. For example, when an intervention, policy, or process is common to several locations, or when the aim of the study is comparative, for example. So in that situation, the different places are considered component of a single multi-place case study. However, when a document presents separate analysis for different geographical context and each place has its own evidence, findings, or conclusion, those geographical contexts will be considered as separate case studies. So the place variable should therefore be read as a description of the geographical scope of the case, not as a variable that uniquely identify or count the cases. And yeah, let me conclude with a brief example of this last point. On the one hand, we have the case studies entitled Mining Community Crabbe and Muscheta, that cover at least two district territorial and mining context, but analyze them together as a part of the same coal mining area and the same post-mining transition process. The document follow a single methodological approach, provide an integrated analysis of the socioeconomic and environmental impacts, for example, and present shared conclusion. And for this reason, is appear in the dataset as a single multi-place case studies with one only study ID. On the other end, we have the study entitled Newcomers Energy Local, for example, and in this case, 7 different case studies were identified from a single document. So there are therefore recorded in separate row in the dataset because each location represent a distinct energy local experience with its own place, title, and case description. Obviously, for the final version of the CASTAL dataset and archive, we will prepare specific methodological notes in order to clarify this aspect and better define the context of the content of the two tools in order to allow proper use. And this will help prevent misunderstanding, we hope, and ensure the correct use. So that's all for me for now. Thank you, and I give the floor to Domingo.
Okay, thank you, Carlo. Hi, everybody. So I'll talk about enrichment of our tools, CASTAL dataset in particular. And we first thank you for all your suggestions and even all for your reports, because I have to say they were very, very, very interesting, at least for me as a data curator, listening how people use data you produce, you curate, is always a pleasure. And so about suggestion, we have a first suggestion that is about the enrichment of metadata of case studies. You already know that we extract information from the documents, from the PDF, and we create several categories that you can see in the slide: method, data source, analysis model, etc. And as some researchers notice, we have some overlapping categories. So we have the same information in around maybe several several categories. So the idea here is to improve the extraction process in order to clarify the boundaries between the categories. Another issue is about adding more information that we can extract from the PDF in order to have more information inside the data set. The idea is to create a new process of extraction. The extraction is made using LLM, so we use an artificial intelligence to extract such information. So the idea is to improve the prompt that we use to extract the information in order to capture more details, for instance, about people or groups that are involved in transitions. Another, very good insight and suggestion was about adding theoretical categories that are relevant for all the case studies, like MLP, as already mentioned by Carlo, and even in the presentation. And the idea, I think it's very good, it's very nice, and we need to find a way to extract such information, but it can be very relevant for the final version of the dataset. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. Another suggestion is about creating a full text search tool for all the PDF, because we have a lot of PDFs about case studies, and the idea is to create a tool service that the researchers can use to search keywords or expressions, concept, etc. We try to think about which tool we can use to improve the search, and here you can find some solutions that can be implemented maybe in a short time, at least before the end of the project. The first one, that is maybe the simpler solution, is about using Notebook LM, that is a service about Google, where we can upload all the documents, and your researchers can use the chat from Gemini to search information, to search what they want about the documents. The usability here is very high and the effort is very low. So maybe is the first tool that we can create in an easy way. Another idea is to share the same information from PDF in a new way, for instance, in plain text or in markdown files. Of course, where we are able to do that, where we have PDF and we have the license to do that. Here we already did it, so it's not a problem for us. The main problem is here that the main work is up to the researcher, because the researchers have to use such document to ingest the model, and to use specific tool for RAG, for instance. So you need to know how to use them. We can also maybe building some more sophisticated tools like vector store, MCP servers, etc., that are maybe easier to use with tools like maybe ChatGPT, for instance, or any other models. But in that case, the effort is much higher, because you need to have maybe a server, you need to create to build, to write code, etc., etc. And maybe it's not the right way. In that case, if you have any feedback in that specific point, please share, because in my perspective, it's very important to know how researcher can use or maybe how they want to use such tools in our project. Sorry, next slide, please. Okay, about improving data usability, we know that the spreadsheet can be a little bit difficult to use when you want filter cases, because of course it's just a spreadsheet. So the idea is to create a very easy dashboard that come from, of course, from the spreadsheet. So the spreadsheet will be the source of such dashboard. The dashboard will be shared in CASTAL website, and maybe the idea is to create the first point of access of our dataset, so the researchers can maybe use it to understand the content of the dataset. Of course, if they need more details, they also download the dataset and do their analysis. That's it. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlo and Domingo, for this rich and useful, I hope, presentation. And I take the occasion to thanks for their presence Andrei Holman, Ricardo Garcia Mira, Eugenia Villarcao, Nikos Zaharis, for being with us today. I don't know if there are some short remarks, question, taking into account that our channel is always open until the end of the project, since we are the project is under finalization. Now we foresee to have a sort of report collecting all the article written by our young scholar, and we will provide the final version of the atlas by the end of September. End of September is the date of the next and the last webinar. We foresee the date of September 29. Anyway, we will confirm and invite you later on. So, are there short remarks, question, ideas? I don't know. Please, Riccardo.
Yes, thank you, Daniel, for giving me the floor. Just to say thank you for inviting me to be here in this interesting initiative that is now reaching the end. And well, just to say that I have been following the work of Fernanda Vidal, who has contributed in some way to the project. And we have been working for many years trying to contribute to the sustainability transitions in different municipalities in our region and also in European projects. And one of the main issues that we have found is the difficulties that we have found to get consensus between the different kind of stakeholders, the governance and the owners of the land, or different representatives of civil society organizations, representatives of the local government. It's very difficult to get a consensus to advance in the design of transition paths. So it should be good for further research, for further discussion, if you agree, to take this subject to the table in terms of how to get agreement between citizenship, between civil society organizations and different levels of governments, because sometimes local governments or regional governments or national governments are not represented by the same political party, and this introduces a lot of difficulties to get the consensus. But I see that your initiative is doing very well, producing this atlas and this website that could be a very important reference, you know, for researchers and also for policymakers to take as a reference to walk in this path. So congratulations for your work, and and take the consensus, no, as a key word, no, for further research and for introducing discussions beyond the research objectives. No, we need to. The consensus for me is the key word for continuing, no, doing this kind of work. So thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Fabio, and thank you all for allowing me to participate.
Thank you very much.
I send my regards also to Andre Holman and Pascual, no? And also what's the name? This other professor from Romania,
Emilia
Pascual.
Please, Fabio.
Sorry, Daniele. Yes, no, just to say thank you very much for your participation, and Andrei, Riccardo, and Nikos, and Eugenia. Yeah, no, the point raised by Riccardo is very important. I think that the problem, the issue of the involvement of stakeholders in the energy transition, climate transition is very important. I think that also in this regard, the Atlas can give some important information, because some of the article, the Green lecture that is collected regard exactly this point. So I think that this could be maybe a topic for a future further research that could be promoted maybe in the future. Anyway, the Atlas, it's important, is at disposal of the researcher. So, and I hope it will be increased in terms of data and so on. So.
Thank you, Fabio.
Okay. So, if there are no further comments on the remarks, I think we can close this very interesting and rich webinar. To me, it was a real pleasure to see you in some time for the first time, in some cases for the first time, and let's remain in touch for the next steps, the final step of this work. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.